what it takes, although they may or may not have the innovation. Now, it takes a while for people who are in the business of delivering services to actually look back and look at, the transformation and then go further back and say the innovation and how do you link these together. True. So as this pressure rose, the first reaction was, how do we innovate? How do we innovate inside the company? True. And therefore, many of these service companies have actually started this process of trying to drive innovation within the company. But pretty soon, it became obvious that you cannot get all the innovation from inside the company, no matter how hard you try, for several reasons. Right. And therefore, you have to also look at innovation that is happening outside. We have now entered that phase where many of these companies are looking around and looking at what are the innovations which actually make sense and which can be wrapped into our services, or which our services can be wrapped around these mix of innovations to deliver the kind of value and end-to-end transformation that we are talking about, whether it is for an international client or for making a big impact in the domestic segment which affects millions or tens of millions of people. Right. So that stage has just started. And I think that, what this would probably imply is that rather than seeing the, innovative companies which end up with $1 billion acquisitions in the US, but they're very small in number, you may actually see a much larger number of such companies doing things which are relevant for the kind of needs that we see around us, which may not be that big, but which will be much larger in number. Right. And we are now seeing a little bit of that happening. So our effort is to do two things. Number one is, since there are many parts to this ecosystem of big companies, small companies, innovative companies, private equity, angel investors, and so on, to focus on certain domains. Because now once you're looking at real world problems, then if you focus on certain domains, then it helps to pull in all the investors into that particular domain. So that is one part of the agenda, that let's focus on certain areas, health, for example, education, financial inclusion. So there are 4 or 5 different areas which we are focusing on based on the impact that it can have and how big the transformation is and how quickly it can be done and make that impact.
So in this context, I would just like to draw a perspective that worldwide it is proven that a large enterprise has its own pressures, and especially in the Indian context, an enterprise whose DNA has been built on offering services of a certain kind. Now, and that's true for a company like Cisco, or which is a product company. But the innovation, the real innovation within, does not come from a very, very large enterprise. Now, 90% of the innovation really comes from smaller entities who are much more nimble, much more agile, and can form a different DNA. Now, we do see that some of the large enterprises have they have found meaningful ways of engaging these small startups. Cisco would have a venture fund of its own. Intel would have a venture fund of its own. Now, that's a way, a realization that the real competitiveness lies in we engaging with small startups. So, is there a way that the industry can be, given a gentle tap, that the way moving forward is to really engage small and medium enterprise to create that innovation element where the large problem can be solved through this? And if at all an incentive system can be created, because I know that the software industry really came about, the government put a tremendous tax incentive in place, which made people invest in the right direction, and how a large behavior was controlled. Now, in the similar context, do you see that to drive innovation, is there somewhere a marriage between a policy and a large company's intent, so it becomes a win-win situation for all?
See, I think there are two issues here. Number one is the sheer size of the companies, and number two is that they are in a service business.
Right. The DNA is different.
The DNA is slightly different, as you said. If you look at some of the large companies in, like the US MNCs that you mentioned, whether it's the Ciscos or the Googles or the Microsofts, many of these are actually product companies. Sure. So their DNA also is different in that sense, if you go to the DNA question. But even then, the sheer size is also a problem because that inhibits the kind of innovation that is required. So they have formed their own equilibrium through this combination of funds and mechanism to reach out to these innovative companies and assimilate them into their product wherever appropriate. So the principle is the same, but the manner in which it will happen for a service company is different. It's going to be
Yes, sure.
how do I wrap it into my service and how do I use it
Right.
to actually enhance the value of the services that I'm delivering.
True.
So the second part of what I was saying was that this connect between the innovative companies and these service companies which are looking at making a big impact both overseas and domestically through their combination of service offerings. That ecosystem and that synergy between the small innovative product companies who don't have the financial clout, who don't have the marketing reach, and who may not have the business connections which these big companies have. And so the idea is to how do we bring about the synergy and how do we actually make these kind of marriages happen. Part of that is also about changing the mindset of the big service companies and their mindset. But part of it is also about the smaller companies. Many of the smaller companies are also still attuned to how it happens in the US. I have to become $1 billion acquisition. Now that may not be the representative model within India. It may be, just a few hundred crores. But is just a few hundred crores such a bad thing?
Well,
not a bad thing at all.
if you ask a lot of entrepreneurs, they would not say it is a bad thing.
Yeah,
They would
but
jump
it
at
is
the
a bad thing
opportunity.
if you are aiming at thousands of crores. So therefore,
not
I
really,
think
not really.
looking at a combination of a number of smaller innovations which together are able to transform a whole service delivery is probably the manner which is likely to be more successful. And is something which I think we are beginning to see that evolution. And it requires a little bit of understanding and changing of the mindset among all the players concerned, including the equity investors or the venture funds, all of whom have certain frame of reference, which may not be quite applicable in this innovative service.
Okay. So on this note, it's time for me to invite Professor Rudra Pratap, who brings a different dimension. And we need to complete the story. We have heard how does the government play a proactive role. We've also seen that how a large industry and a very successful industry can really change tracks and do this. And one very important element in this is where does the source of the research really comes from, and how does it which is university plays which is and I would not complain within India. There is sufficient amount of funding really available to academic institutions, and one proof of that is the state-of-the-art lab that Professor Rudra Pratap himself oversees. Some of us from ISA had an opportunity to visit his lab, and it is a mind-boggling lab. I mean, say they are working in the area of Sanjeev is nodding his head. He was someone who spotted that how sophisticated an infrastructure that Indian Institute of Science has in the area of MEMS and NEMS, which Professor Rudra Pratap himself, a professor in mechanical engineering, is overseeing how some of that work can be driven to create new products. So I would like to ask, how in academia is able to bring about that pre-competitive edge and drive that innovation, which is beginning, and it is not going to bear fruits probably for the next 10 years. But if you're looking at leadership 10 years down the line, the answer probably lies here. Okay? So could you say that some of the work that you are doing, the opportunity that you have at the Indian Institute of Science, do you see signs of this becoming a world leader, this spawning of something on the leadership front?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we would love to hear from you. How does this, go on to this, and then see how do we connect the dots?
The job of academia is really to look forward and not only look at, can I sow or plant a tree that is going to bear fruits 10 years later. we also think about, can I plant a tree of a fruit which will bear vegetables after 10 years? Okay, so we have the job to think about radical things, radical transformations. That's what the society pays us for, and we have the freedom to do that. In that context, the lab that you just talked about, that lab we thought about in 2005. Actually, we thought about it 2002, and it took some time to bring it about. But the idea was not just to have a sophisticated lab. The idea was to transform electronics education in the country completely. We have been educating our kids. Many people sitting here have been educated that way. It was information-centric, theoretical education, right? So you produce engineers from that education who just seek jobs.
Absolutely.
Because that's all
Absolutely.
they've thought
Right.
about, right? Whereas what you want to do is give them something to play with, give them toys. It's technology-rich education. It's hands-on education that makes innovators. You want innovators. And innovators don't come out from the previous model of education, right? Knowing grammar does not make you a writer. Being a writer is a different thing. You can teach grammar to everybody, but being a writer is a different ballgame. So that's what you were trying to do. And therefore, we thought that there has to be a paradigm shift in education. You have to provide state-of-the-art, technology-rich environment to our young, so that they can innovate, so that they can think, they can tweak. Engineering, technology, scientific discovery is all about tinkerers.
Right.
You have to be able to tinker. So you have to give them a playground to tinker. And that's why we thought. So that was the first innovation that we did. When we embarked upon that journey, not one person in this country was ready to believe that it can be done. Just like you have today, people saying that, oh, can you have a fab in this country? What a silly question in my mind. If that solution has been done anywhere else in the world,
Why not here?
yeah, in mathematics, one thing that you learn is, does the solution exist? If it exists, then you don't even have to try to prove again, right? It exists, you can do it. So going from there, today what we do see this transformation. It's not just Indian Institute of Science students who are working in our fab or at IIT Bombay, which is our partner. We have 300 universities of this country plugged into these labs.